conversation. We're still here with Rhonda Kennedy, our conservative friend, activist, former candidate, but one of the black conservatives I think is one of the more reasonable voices in the movement. And Rhonda, before the break, we were talking about trying to create a bipartisan agenda for black people. We've been talking about Dr. King and kind of how his message has been gentrified over the years by both sides for their own purposes. But he really did work in a bipartisan fashion. People forget that it was LBJ who signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964, but more conservatives, more Republicans voted for the Civil Rights Act in Congress and in the Senate than Democrats. It was indeed Strom Thurmond and the Dixiecrats who filibustered the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the longest filibuster in U.S. history at the time before that passed. So you have to work in a bipartisan fashion. You have to be able to appeal to LBJ on the one hand and Goldwater on the other hand. What do you think can be some bipartisan issues that black folks can key in on for 2024?
Yeah. So first of all, like I say, I am a United States Senate candidate for the state of Nevada. And I just had a debate on Thursday, and I'm grounded in reality. There are so many issues going on in the black community, and I think we have these leaders today that they call themselves leaders of the black community. However, they're in bed with the Democrat Party. We have to stop just giving our votes to one party. We need to be represented by both sides of the aisle. We need to put our eggs in two baskets, not in one basket, which is customarily that's the way it's been, and demand, that we be treated and we have our seat at the table, and we need to vote in a block. The Democrats, and I keep saying the Democrats because they seem to get a pass because they have a D behind their name, and I've experienced more racism with the Democrats than I ever have with Republicans, but they get a pass because they're Democrats. People automatically assume that they're not racist. When you talk about the Civil Rights Act and Democrats, both Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden both have called Senator Robert Byrd their mentor. But we know what Senator Robert Byrd's history is. He filibustered and voted against the Civil Rights Act. He voted against Thurgood Marshall being a Supreme Court justice, and then he voted against Clarence Thomas being a Supreme Court justice. So when you look at it, Thurgood Marshall was a Democrat, and Clarence Thomas was a Republican. What's the common denominator? They were black men, and this was a Democrat. But he changed. I like to know how many lynchings did he attend? But he changed. So we need to start looking at history, and we need to start voting for whatever party is going to, or whatever candidate is going to actually listen. And I know a lot of people give me flack about President Trump, but there's one thing about President Trump is that he listens, and that he does things like the First Step Act versus the Joe Biden crime bill. And I don't care what the motivation is. People say, well, he was motivated by a self-interest. I don't care. If that's the case, I don't care. If it got us the results, I really don't care, because that's the results we need. I mean, as an attorney, you're in the justice system. You see how it is, and that needs to be reformed. Who's talking about justice reform right now?
But with that, we only got a couple minutes left. Going into 2024, we're in the season now. If you're going to think of a couple issues that Republicans and that Democrats can go to both Republicans and Democrats and say, look, we need this done. What would those issues be? One of them, I think, should be reparations. Reparations is a Republican idea. It was, Dr. King talked about it in the clip we just played, and Frederick Douglass talked about it. It was part of the radical Republican agenda back in during Radical Reconstruction. Will Republicans get on board with the same Republican Party that your great-grandparents ran away from the Democratic plantation to run to? Should reparations be an issue that Republicans are on board with?
Well, before that, reparations, I think we need to start looking at immediate solutions like equal home ownership. Like I had an opportunity to sit down with Ben Carson about overhauling the FHA program, again about credit merit. So you have three private organizations that can determine, what your credit score is, and therefore they can determine where you live, what type of housing you can get, what cities you can live in, where you vacation, what kind of car you can buy. And I think that being an FHA, home ownership, it should be based on not just that, but also your credit history. There are people who have been renting houses for 10 and 20 years, and they can't buy one because of their credit score. Well, FHA is a government-backed loan, and it's the banks that determine what the credit score minimum is. So they should base it on their history. And it's statistically shown that neighborhoods that have high home ownership has a lower crime rate and a higher graduation rate. And also school choice. You shouldn't be forced to go to a school that gives you a fifth grade education when they graduate you. You should be able to have school choice to be able to go to the school of your choosing. Like I went to Kewaskum, had a superior education than those who graduated from Milwaukee. There should have been, those students should have had a choice to go to those better schools. And then I guarantee you when that happens, all schools will be equal. So I think those are some of the main issues that are affecting the Black community right now. Those are immediate results, not just more handouts, but those opportunities to achieve generational wealth. Like I just discovered we own 147 acres in Arkansas that has oil, timber, and lithium on it. That was the minerals were being stolen. So I was just able to go down and recover all of that back. And there's a lot of other families out there that are in the similar situation. That's why there are programs set up. It's called Keeping It in the Family that actually helps Black families get that land back. So we have wealth out there that's been taken. We just need to go find it. And we need those opportunities to build the generational wealth.
All right, before we go, how can people get in contact with you and how can they follow the campaign?
My website is rondakennedy.com. So that's Ronda with no H, RONDA, Kennedy.com. All my social media is on there. They can follow me there. But I'm an open book, and I'll talk to anyone, whether they're far left, and as me as a Republican on the right side, I'll talk to anyone. So yeah, if you have any questions, just reach out.
All right, thank you so much.